An exciting Friday night around the NBA, and the Dallas Mavericks show some fight, even though they're missing Luka Doncic. We're going to get to all and more today's Locked On NBA Game Night.
When that final buzzer rings, you know it's time for Locked On NBA Game Night. All the post-game reactions to every game across the league, every single night, with insights only the hosts at Locked On can provide. It's the true NBA fans' one stop for all the action. Every game, every night. It's Locked On NBA Game Night. Tipping off now.
Thank you for tuning in to Locked On NBA Game Night, where it's every game, every night. I'm Hayes, host and creator of Locked On Bulls. I'm joined by Swiper, one of the hosts of Locked On Nuggets. And today's episode is brought to you guys by FanDuel. The NFL playoffs are almost here, but it's not too late to get in on the regular season action with FanDuel, because right now, new customers can finish the season strong with $250 in bonus bets if your first $5 bet wins. Visit FanDuel.com to get started. Swiper, man, let's get into these topics for today. So we're going to start off with the Dallas Mavericks, who did get a win 98-89 over the Phoenix Suns in this game. This is the first game after losing Luka Doncic for a month. But the story in this game is going to be the fight that broke out between Yusuf Nurkic and Najee in this game, man. How you feeling about this one?
Well, the Dallas Mavericks are really good. I think that's kind of been my thing. I probably trust them more than anybody else in the Western Conference, like in the series right now. If Luka's available, they just have like so many different kinds of ways they can beat you. And Nico Harrison doesn't get a lot of credit because he's not a well-known GM, I would say, relative to a lot of casual fans yet. But I hope everybody that watches Locked On NBA, you can get a really chance to appreciate him, because Najee Marshall, PJ Washington, and Daniil Gafford, they've all gotten to this team, in the last year, and it's not even been a full year yet. Yeah. And Najee just got there in the offseason, and they all contributed. Najee and PJ, they both got thrown out today because of the altercation with Yusuf Nurkic. But today, they're still able to get a win without Luka, man, and it means something that Kyrie Irving can shoot 6 of 21 from the field, and you still get a 98-89 win. They shot 44% from the field and 35% from three, but their defense really, truly made a massive difference in today's game. Bradley Beal, who just came off a 21-point game, shot about 50% from the field versus the Nuggets on Christmas, gives you 11 on 5 of 18 today. And Kevin Durant, 35 points, no assists. They basically shut down the Suns' entire offense, held them to 23 assists, forced 13 turnovers. Now, the Mavericks only had 24 assists and 15 turnovers themselves. So not a lot of ball movement. A lot of really contested shots were taken today. But that's, I think, what Dallas has excelled at. They can play up and down basketball, but if you get them in a half-court setting and they're not turning the ball a lot over, they got enough guys that can defend, plus having like a really elite rim protector at the rim and Derek Lively and even Daniil Gafford coming off the bench. The Mavericks have it all, and you got a chance to kind of see all that on the screen today, even without obviously having Lively in the lineup, man. It was just really incredible. Like, I really love how solid Jason Kidd has them playing.
Yeah, and I think it's the depth that the Dallas Mavericks had. It was talked about once on Locked On Mavericks, actually, with Nick, that this team is actually deeper than last year's team. And I agree with that. And I think they use their depth really well. And I think, like, one of the storylines in this is how the depth of the Dallas Mavericks in this game helped them win it. And for the most part, Kevin Durant really didn't get much help in this game. Like you said, no assists really. He had 35 points. Only 2 other players even scoring in double digits in this game.
Yeah,
and that comes down, to the defense that the Dallas Mavericks are able to play. So I think when it comes down to it, like, what they're looking is just to stay afloat. Getting wins like this is going to be important for this Dallas Mavericks team, but they have more than enough to win most of these games still when Luka's out. I mean, they now moved to 7-2 on the season in games without Luka Doncic.
Yeah, I mean, they have enough shooting, and I think in the NBA now, the math game is so important. And they only got up 34 threes today, but they made 12, but they hold the Suns to 35 threes. And so if you can kind of play a more methodical pace, because you have the defense to be able to contest the other opponent's shot quality consistently, that makes a difference. And I think that's what the Mavericks do better than a lot of teams is they put you in spots they want you to be in. They make you take more difficult shots or show a lot of hands. And then on the other end, they just have a really smooth offensive process that's not completely reliant on Luka Doncic going crazy and having these superstar level games, even though they're even better when he's on the court. So honestly, like from 1 to 10, they're one of the best teams in the NBA.
Yeah, for sure. And I think that this stretch that they're going to have to go on this month without Luka can actually help them more once they make the playoffs, because they're going to have been through battles, and their schedule is tough as well. Been through battles with missing Luka, so we'll see how that's going to keep playing off for them. Anything left on this game before we move into the next one, Swiper?
No, man. Just Nurkic and Nachi Marshall with just a crazy interaction.
Crazy. Yeah, it sucks that, a game that honestly was a good game. Of course, like I said, that's going to be the storyline, because that's going to be the thing that grabs headlines and people talk about. But it was just silly, and it started off with the foul on Kyrie Irving. But you gotta get over your emotions and just let that go on. But let's get into the next game. The Minnesota Timberwolves defeat the Houston Rockets in this one, 113-112. This comes down to Anthony Edwards, who hit a last-minute three-pointer to win this game. The Rockets did have another chance to hit a shot themselves and try to win it. They ended up missing it. But the Wolves come out with the victory here. How you feeling about this one?
Well, I mean, honestly, Julius Randle had a good game today, and he made a real big difference today. I mean, the shots he was making, the rebounding, the passing, him and Ant, they combined for 51 points in this game. And, and I think like the Wolves, they have like a formula to be successful, and they really have some things that they can do. And down the stretch of the game, the Wolves were really struggling to score, and they were having a lot of issues, just like converting good buckets and just trying to find good shot quality. And so they ended up putting a lineup on the court. If I remember correctly, I believe it was Dante DiVincenzo, Nickeil Alexander-Walker, Anthony Edwards, Naz Reid, and then Julius Randle. And then I think when Reid fouled out, I think Jaden McDaniels came in. But they ran that 5-man unit, took Rudy Gobert off the court, and it functionally changed the game, because now like they can just attack from all over the place. The lanes are there. They're just able to find more advantages. I mean, all kind of things. And so today, really, they were down. I think it was like 88-101. And then they made these changes, and they just started blitzing the Rockets time and time again. And the Rockets, as good as they are, Amen Thompson is going to be incredible. We get 20 and 11 today. Yeah. Şengün had 38 and 12 on 16 to 25. They don't have a primary shot maker that's like a number one option. And when you get to the end of games in the Western Conference, you got to have somebody you can go to get buckets consistently. And the Rockets just didn't have that. But really, I really just give the shout out to the Wolves, man. They turned up their defense and they turned up their offense, and Anthony Edwards started getting some really good shots down the stretch of the game.
Yeah, absolutely. They were down by 12 points with 3 minutes left in this game. And then they went on a 10-0 run to just put themselves back in position to win this game. And that's great. It was one of the best games on the night, mainly because of the fight that the Minnesota Timberwolves had. And this has been a season that's been kind of frustrating, I'm sure, for Timberwolves fan. They had a 4-game winning streak, then they lost a couple, then they won one, and then they went on a 3-game losing streak. Now they're winning 2 games in a row. They just got to get consistently winning. And I think when you look at the other teams in the Western Conference that have started to separate themselves, you see a lot of teams that have won like 8 out of their last 10 or 12 out of their last 14, something like that. The Timberwolves just got to start putting some stretches together like that. But let me ask you this question. Do you think that the Wolves make a deal between now and the trade deadline?
Yeah, that's tough. They might, they could, but the real question is that probably is going to be centered around Julius Randle. And is there a team that actually would consider Randle to be a plus piece, at this point? And so I don't know about that. But yeah, I mean, they need a point guard. They need a playmaker. If they don't have Mike Conley on the court, they're just a much different kind of offense and a much worse offense. So I do think that they would benefit greatly from having another playmaker point guard on the court. I'm not exactly sure who that would be. It's obviously not going to be D'Lo again. Yeah. But if they found something like that, like a nice play initiator that was younger, that could play next to Nall, play with Ant, play with Dante, you can get those half-court sets going with, Julius Randle and Naz Reid. And then really, if they had a solid, lob thrower with Rudy Gobert, especially like a Darius Garland, I mean, they would be near unstoppable at times. So I could see them doing something like that. I just don't know if they're going to have the assets to actually do what they want.
Yeah, I agree with you on that. Real quick before you end this segment as well, I want to flip that and ask basically the same question about the Houston Rockets, because there's been a lot of talk about them, and I think it came out today that they could be a surprise buyer at the trade deadline. We've heard that Ime Udoka does want to pursue a star, kind of the ownership doesn't want to give up these young players. You said that they need that primary shot maker. Do you think they try to find that at this trade deadline, or do they just ride it out with this young core and see who's going to develop?
Yeah, I think that De'Aaron Fox will be a really good fit here. So, I mean, there's a natural seam that could be filled by De'Aaron Fox. He's obviously he would bring a lot to that team. So I would definitely think that they could, that would be something I would swing for. And I think he would fit their timeline because he's only 27 years old as well.
Yeah. Good points there. Well, we are going to go ahead and get into a message from one of our sponsors, and that one is Robinhood. On the other side of that, though, we're going to be talking about the Memphis Grizzlies game over the Pelicans, which Jaren Jackson Jr. had a big game. We're getting to that right after this. With Robinhood Gold, you don't need a silver spoon to eat up the financial favors of the 1%. Robinhood Gold allows others to get the rates and perks usually reserved for the high society. Now, the resourceful individual with Robinhood Gold can earn the very liberal rate of 4.25% APY on uninvested cash and be rewarded with a handsome 3% retirement boost on their IRA contributions. Robinhood Gold provides the privileges of the high net worth for any net worth. These generous benefits are now available for only $5 a month. The new gold standard is here with Robinhood Gold. Sign up at robinhoodgold.com. Terms do apply. For product-specific disclosures, visit robinhoodgold.com. Investing does involve risk. Rate may change. Gold membership is offered by Robinhood Gold, LLC. More Locked On NBA Game Night coming up next. All righty, Swiper, man. Let's get into it. The Memphis Grizzlies over the Pelicans, 132-124 in this one. I wanted to kind of pull this game out and talk about this one a little bit because the Grizzlies have quietly won 14 of their last 18 games. Ja Morant goes down with a shoulder injury in this one. Jaren Jackson Jr. scores 33 points for the Grizzlies to go up in this game. A, how'd you feel about the game? And B, should we start talking about the Memphis Grizzlies as bigger contenders to come out the Western Conference, as a lot of that acclaim has gone to teams like the Mavericks and the Nuggets and the OKC Thunder? And do the Grizzlies have a legitimate chance to come out the West?
Well, I mean, I think the Grizzlies, they're just in prove it stage. I think the Thunder are in prove it stage. You know, whenever you haven't done it before and your squad is young, people are always going to have a little bit more hesitation to assume that you're going to be able to get it done or not. I think they should be considered contenders, but like I said, I really just need to see them get into like a playoff setting. And I've seen them in a playoff setting before. You know, I've seen them play versus like a Lakers team that I think had a lot of issues defensively. You know, they did, but Anthony Davis was so incredible in that series because he could just kind of sit in the paint. And Ja Morant just was not able to operate around him consistently. And then, you know, Jaren Jackson Jr., he just made it very difficult for them. Like, what is their solve? What's their counter this year? You know, how will they respond when they get into those moments? So I do think they should be respected. They should be more respected than the Nuggets right now for sure. I mean, the Mavericks know. I think the Nuggets just look abysmal. I think the Mavericks are fine. They're a contender. But I think today, like, they took care of business. Like, the Pelicans aren't good. Like, they're a very bad basketball team. And
very bad.
They handled them like they should, and they let them get back in the game at the end. But again, they were up 20 basically in the third quarter, you know. So like this game was over. They scored 100 points, you know, through three quarters. This game was over. So shout out Jaren Jackson Jr. and I mean Scottie Pippen Jr., Luke Kennard off the bench today. Brandon Clark had a nice little whatever. Jay Huff 7 more points off the bench. They just got guys, and they got people that know what they're supposed to do. And I think the theme of the year this year, Hayes, does your team have an identity? Is your unit bought into their identity? And do they know what they're doing? And will they commit to what their job is? If you do that, and you got a bunch of young dogs especially, you're winning a lot of games right now in the NBA. And they just have one of those teams where everybody's just like, the vibes are high. They play hard every night. They have veterans that have been here, but they're not old enough to like, oh, you know, it's December 27th. I don't feel like doing this, and that. Everybody's like locked into what they're doing. And I think that's when you get these engines and they go into the regular season. And it's like, there's nothing you can do with it. And the Pelicans, on the other hand, I think Willie Green's doing the best job that he can do, but they suck. And I'm sorry, the Pelicans fans that didn't want to deal with this. They're 5-27 this year. They don't have a competent roster right now. They have injuries left and right. This was not the season that I think any of us expected for this team, and they're going to be fighting for Cooper Flag sweepstakes all year. And that's just going to be the situation for them, unfortunately.
Yeah, I think that's not necessarily like, don't get me wrong, it's bad per the expectations coming into the season for the Pelicans. But I think if there's any year, especially as they're looking to pivot from the roster, they could keep their pick this year. This would be the year that if you're going to have a down year to do it, you get a chance in one of the deepest drafts that we've had in a while to get your pick, to get your guy. If they do end up moving on from Ingram, McCollum, or Zion Williamson, listen, they're not that they're going to be right back where we're expecting them to be this season, but they could have a clear path as far as development and a focus going forward if that ends up being the case. I don't think that's a bad place to be for the Pelicans. As far as the Memphis Grizzlies, the thing that I love about this team so much is how they just, like you alluded to it, all the pieces fit together. Everybody has a role. They thrive in that role. When this team is fully healthy, everything just fits. And by the way, they still have not had G.G. Jackson for real this season, who still, I think they said he was about 6 to 8 weeks away about 3 weeks ago. So he's going to be nearing his return towards the end of January. We know what he brought off the bench for that team. I don't know if he's going to still have that same impact, but, we'll see. So they still have another chance to get even better with their bench production. This is a scary Memphis Grizzlies team when they're healthy.
Yeah, they're 22-10. They're 3.5 games out of first, but, I mean, they could look up 3 weeks from now, 4 weeks from now, the Mavericks, the Rockets, and Grizzlies and Thunder. They're going to be ahead of everybody else in the Western Conference. And look at this. The Clippers, old, no Kawhi. The Lakers, old. The Nuggets, not even old, just who wants to be. They don't want to be here right now. The Wolves, just a total mess. And then you got the Spurs, who nobody thought they were going to be good. Well, not a lot of people. I thought they might win 40 games this year. They're doing what they're doing. Then you got the Suns. They're old. Then you got the Warriors. They're old. So it's the young guns. Like, again, you commit to your vision, you do your job, you win games. And the Grizzlies, they could very well win the conference, if things go right for them.
Absolutely. Well, next up, we're going to be talking about the Celtics wins over the Pacers. Before, we're going to hear from host of Locked On Celtics and John Corrales.
Boston Celtics get the big, very easy, very much needed easy win over the Indiana Pacers, who, let's be honest, the Pacers had nothing in this game. They played a tough game last night. This is a tough back-to-back for them, home road, and they came in looking like a team that had nothing. The Celtics took full advantage of it like they should have, so it was good to see that the Celtics didn't play down to a team that was struggling. Jalen Brown's 44-point night was huge, and not only was it huge, he shot very well, which he hasn't been doing this season, so he needed a good shooting night, shooting 60+% overall, 50+ from three, and hitting all 6 of his free throws, which, he's not the best free throw shooter in the world. So to have that kind of dominant night from him on such great splits is a big deal for Jalen Brown. And look, the Celtics, a little bit of a dip in December, so you got to feast on an Indiana team that, like I said, didn't have much for them. They do it again on Sunday, so if there's any concern here, it's that they get a little too comfortable after an easy win. We'll see how it goes.
All right, great points there from John Corrales, man. The Celtics killed the Pacers today, 142-105. This was just, they dominated this game from start to finish. It was never in question if they were going to win this game. What are your thoughts, Wiper?
Look, who cares? I mean, it's not a who cares, but like,
I get what you're saying.
The Pacers just played the worst back-to-back I could probably draw up. Like,
yeah,
this is almost as bad as a Utah Jazz Nuggets back-to-back in Utah, in Colorado. Like, they were beating the Thunder, ran out of gas, and then you walk into the Celtics team who just lost, by the way. They were 3-4 in their last 7, and the Celtics are, we're trying to win the East, and the other team that's ahead of us, they keep winning. So we can't let this happen. And they come out and they dog walk the Pacers. So if I'm a Pacers fan, I'm not even upset about it. Like, it is what it is. Like, the team gets blown out. They didn't step up. They didn't play good enough defense today. Everybody fell apart. Tyrese had 19-9. That's cool. Who cares? Like, the Celtics came in here with a clear mission and a buzzsaw. And Peyton Pritchard, who couldn't hit jack nothing down the stretch of the game the other day, 4 threes off the bench, 6 threes from Brown, 3 from Tatum, 3 from White, 3 from Horford. You know what I mean? Like, everybody was bombing. So, yeah, shout out. The Celtics they're the favorite to win the title for a reason. Like, they're the most dynamic team in the NBA. They were up 90. They got up 30 points in this game, in the third quarter. Like, this is what I'm talking about. Like, this wasn't a game. You know what I mean? Like, they have the Celtics have one of the most dynamic guard wing rotations you could imagine in the modern NBA, because they have 5 players that can beat you off the dribble almost at all times. And also, they didn't even have Drew Holiday today. So, yeah, they did what they were supposed to do. And the Celtics are really freaking good.
Yeah, they took care of business, and it's going to happen. There's going to be times where you get caught on a back-to-back on the wrong night. And I love that John Corrales also pointed out that they're going to do it again Sunday, and so we'll see if the Pacers can, with the day off, can come out and perform better against the Celtics on Sunday. But with that said, we're going to get into the rest of the games. We got 4 more games to catch up with on Friday night, even with Swipers, Nuggets, and the Knicks versus Magic. That wasn't all that entertaining either. But first, we got to get some message from one of our sponsors, and that is FanDuel. Get ready to tackle the NFL action with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook, because right now, new customers can bet $5 and get $150 in bonus bets if you win. The FanDuel Sportsbook app gives you everything you need to place live bets on the NFL all in one place. So when you get a hunch in the middle of a game, you can check out the latest stats, view live play-by-play, and so much more on the same page where you place your bets. Just visit FanDuel.com to join today. You get started with $150 in bonus bets if you win your first $5 bet. That's FanDuel.com. Never waste a hunch and make every moment more with FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the NFL. More game night coming up next. All right, let's get into the rest of these games from tonight. We got the Knicks over the Magic, and we also have the host from Locked On Magic giving his thoughts on the game. We're going to go ahead and play that now.
This is Philip Rossman-Wright, the host of Locked On Magic here at the Kia Center, as the Orlando Magic fall to the New York Knicks 108-85. As you can guess from the score, a lot of the similar themes happen in this game for the Orlando Magic, have led to loss after loss, have led to most of their losses this year. Namely, poor shooting. Magic were shooting very, very well in the first half and really through 3 quarters, but ended up shooting just 10 for 33 from 3. And then ultimately turnovers, fouls, all the usual culprits for this team. The real lesson here and the real message here from the Orlando Magic after this game is just playing with some intentionality. The Magic are getting turnovers. They're creating opportunities for themselves. They're creating open shots, but they're not making those shots. They're not taking advantage of those opportunities. They're putting themselves in a hole. And while they might be able to get away with that when they're at full health, with the injuries that they have, and especially with Jalen Suggs in foul trouble in this game, despite how well he played, that puts them in a hole that is too deep to dig out of when they're playing a quality team like the New York Knicks. This was a tough game for Orlando, one that they felt like they played exceptionally well in the first half, gave themselves a chance, and then just kind of let go of the rope. They kind of fell behind and could not get back up. That's how the Knicks win, and that's how the Knicks win a very critical season series.
31 points scored by the Orlando Magic in the entirety of the second half of this game. The New York Knicks scored 32 in just the fourth quarter. You're not going to win games when you can't score the basketball. Josh Hart with 23, Jalen Brunson with 26, 16 and 8 from Karl Anthony Towns. What were your takeaways from this game, Swiper?
Yeah, I mean, you can only go back to the genie bottle every so often, and you get a chance versus the Celtics, and you get it done. But again, that's another one of those teams. They're just decimated, and the margin for error when you're decimated with injuries like that is so small. And if you let go of the rope for 2 or 3 minutes versus the team that's better offensively than you when you're that down, they had the lead in the third quarter, and then it was gone. It was like it flew away. It flew out of the window. Jalen Brunson started cooking. They started turning the ball over at the top of the key in transition. The Knicks are running out. They're getting nice layups in transition. And then from there, it just kept steamrolling for the Orlando Magic. So it pains me for the Magic as a whole, because they really do deserve better than what they're going through this year. Unlike the Chicago Bulls. They really have prepared themselves to be here and to be contending in the Eastern Conference. But again, they just don't have the horses. Again, like Jalen Suggs is very good. Jalen Suggs is not a number one offensive option, and he has been approximating that because of what's around him. And so again, he can't stay, he can't get in foul trouble, but he has to be aggressive at the POA defender because of what they need him to do on a night-to-night basis. But I think he's been stepping in admirably. But the game was it was cooked. Third quarter was over. They turned the ball over. The Knicks took over from there.
Yeah, and despite the Knicks only making 4 of 15 three-pointers, they still were able to win this game, which you just need to find ways.
How horrible is that? 4 of 15.
Yeah, especially in the modern NBA, it's crazy that's one of the stats that stood out tonight. Let's move in and get into your team, the Cavs. 149 over the Nuggets, 135. Donovan Mitchell, Jared Allen, Darius Garland, Evan Mobley, all those guys played extremely well in tonight's game. The Cavs get their 6th win in a row. How you feeling about this game?
Yeah, the Cavs this is their 4th straight game with 20 or more made threes. Their 5th straight game with 19 or more made threes. They had 6 players or 7 players, maybe. Somebody correct me if I'm wrong. 7 players were 2 or more made threes tonight for the Cavaliers, which is just asinine. And then on the other end of that, the Cavs also had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 players were 3 or more threes made. The Nuggets have 0 POA defenders. So that Zach LaVine, Ayo Dosunmu deal cannot come soon enough. Cannot wait to get Ayo in Denver to be a good defensive anchor on the perimeter. Yeah. But yeah, they don't have any defenders, man. Like Christian Brown has not been good at that this year. His offense has been really good for the most part. He made 2 threes today. Now he has made a total of 5 threes in the month of December, which shows you that he's been having a lot of issues. Michael Porter Jr. started the game off at 4 threes. The score was 40-38, Hayes, at the end of the first quarter. And then going into halftime, it was 80-65. And then both teams scored 36 points. 36 points in the third quarter. And then in the fourth, the Nuggets lost 135-149. That was the most points the Nuggets have scored this year. That's the most points the Cavs scored this year. Neither team played any defense. But Hayes, we talked about this a little bit. The three-point shot is the definition of the year 2024-25 season. Mm-hmm. Because the Nuggets shot 48% from 3.
Yeah, ridiculous.
Today. They shot 48% from 3, and they got outscored at the three-point line by 24 points, and they lose by 14. To me, that's crazy. The game. Yeah. The other team, even if you make threes, the other team took 48 three-pointers.
And made 23 of them.
Almost half their shots, well, actually half of their shots came from the three-point line. Jokic had 27, 14, and 13, and he was 12 of 16 from 2 today. And it meant nothing. Nothing. Because in the NBA now, Hayes, if you cannot outshoot your opponent and you cannot keep up at the three-point line and you can't defend the three-point line, you almost have no hope of winning. And that's why the Nuggets are a mid-basketball team.
Are your Nuggets going to make a deal between now and the trade deadline? Whether it be with the Bulls or any other, are they going to make a move? Do they have to make a move by the trade deadline?
Look, I'm hearing so many different things. I have heard about the Bulls. I've heard about the Wizards. I have heard about the Hawks. I've heard about the Nets. I've heard about Utah. So, yes, they are actively on the phone trying to make a move. It's just a matter of what will they be willing to give up, what will they get back, and what will that solve. So, it really just depends on the direction. You know, the Bulls, they have they do not want to give up, some of the players that are on their roster with LaVine. They're trying not to get back a player maybe like a Zeke Naji or something like that. Yeah. But the Atlanta, there's some stuff there. But I'll just tell you like this, Hayes. If they want to win a championship, if they don't want to waste like another all-time great season from Joker, then they're probably going to have to make a move. I'll say it like that. Either you wait and say, oh, Joker, when you're 30, we're going to give you a better shot next year, but this year's a wash, or we're going to make a move in the next month and a half. So that's kind of where I am with it.
We'll see. Spurs over the Nets 96-87 in this one. Wemby had a very quiet first half in this game, but in the third quarter, he had 11 points. He knocked down three three-pointers during the time where the Spurs were going on a 22-9 run, and they turned a 2-point deficit into a 69-58 lead. They eventually go on to win this game. How'd you feel about this one?
Guess who led them in plus minus with the starters? Chris Paul. Chris Paul continues to have one of the most impactful resumes in the NBA, and the level of intentionality he brings to the court on a night-to-night basis, even for a team as young as the Spurs, it honestly is exceptional. And I really love how all their players fit together. I love Devin Vassell out of Florida State.
Mm-hmm.
I love Jeremy Sohan out of Baylor. Sikkim Bears. Like, they just have so much, man. And like, when they get going with all their athletes and with their veteran leadership at the point guard, they become really hard to beat. And I don't know what's gonna, Wemby, he's gonna continue to ascend. Now that Luka Doncic is likely out for the first team All NBA thing, I think Wemby could go on a run. I think he's gonna be an argument for first team All NBA this year. That's how good he is. I think the Spurs can win 40 games. Like, I'm that impressed with what they've done this year.
40 games would be a nice leap up from what they did last year, and I do think the Spurs are ahead of schedule. Like, they're ahead of where you think where they probably should be. And Chris Paul is a huge reason of that as well. And so, the Spurs team is more dangerous than I think what a lot of people realize. And Wemby started to get in stride, and it's crazy to think that Wemby's this good already. He's going to live up to the hype that was around him coming into the league, but he's not even done progressing not nearly done progressing as a player. And what we're going to see from Wemby, not only now, but when you think about it 2, 3, 4 years down the road, it's going to be scary times in the NBA.
Yeah. Wemby's going to be one of the GOATs for sure.
Yeah, that's for sure. Last game on the night, the Clippers 102-92 over the Golden State Warriors in this game. This one was another game that was fun for the most part of this game, but the Clippers started pulling away there in that fourth quarter. Had 6 players scoring in double digits, led by Norman Powell with 26 points, James Harden with 18 points, Chris Dunn with 13. Zubac had another double-double as well. How'd you feel about this game?
I don't know why Chris Dunn had to go to the Clippers. I was begging for him, man. He's such a good player. 13, 7, and 4 for him. James Harden, 18 and 7. Zubac, 17 and 11, and he was 8 and 9 from the field. Incredible defense today. Jonathan Kuminga, did you see his stat line? 34, 10, and 5 for Jonathan Kuminga today, and played an exceptional game. And they still lost. The Warriors, they're just not a good basketball team. Like, it's just that simple. Like, they weren't good when they were going on their run to start the year off. They had this fake run because Buddy Hield playing like an all-NBA player. And then now they've come back down to earth, and they look just exactly how we thought they would. Mid. The roster is just very small. And tonight, they just got bullied for the most part. And obviously, especially – without Steph Curry and all that stuff too. So just really unfortunate. But again, the Clippers continue to show that, like, once they get Kawhi Leonard, they're going to be back in business.
Yeah, I mean, and much like I said earlier, like they've gone through these battles. They have a 17-13 a winning record without Kawhi. We know what Kawhi is going to be once he's back on the court. It's just how long is he going to stay on the court is the biggest question there. But look out for this Clippers team as the season goes on for sure. But that's it. Any last thoughts, Swipe, before we get out of here?
What a day in the NBA.
Every Friday night, you guys can find us right here on Locked On NBA. Make sure you guys are tuning in to Locked On NBA Game Night every single day. Also, your favorite team does have a newsletter. Just go to LockedOnDaily.com. You can sign up for your favorite team's newsletter. But for Swiper, I'm Hayes. This has been Locked On NBA Game Night. We out of here. Peace, y'all.